Commander Vexhai floated in his command chair, watching the empty space around Earth's solar system. His forearms moved slowly across the glowing screens in front of him. For 300 years, his people and the other alien races had kept humans locked inside their small part of space. The humans didn't know about the blockade. They couldn't see the invisible fence that kept them prisoner. The monitoring station was huge, like a small city floating in space. It had everything the alien crew needed to live for years without going home. Vexhai had been here for 10 years now, watching and waiting. Nothing ever happened. The humans sometimes sent out their slow ships to explore their own solar system, but they never came close to discovering the truth. The Galactic Council had decided long ago that humans were too dangerous. They fought too much. They had wars over land, resources, and even ideas. The Council watched them build nuclear weapons and almost destroy themselves several times. So they voted to keep humanity locked away until the species either grew up or died out. Vexhai thought it was the right choice. His own people, the Zelathi, had given up war thousands of years ago. All the Council races had. They lived in peace now, trading and sharing knowledge. They didn't need violent species like humans joining them. Down on Earth, in a secret base hidden under the Rocky Mountains, Captain Jake Morrison stood in a room full of generals and scientists. They all looked at the same thing on the big screen, a picture of the alien monitoring station. The image was blurry but clear enough to see the shape of the massive structure. "They've been watching us for 300 years, General Harper said. Her voice was calm, but Jake could see the anger in her eyes. 300 years of keeping us in a cage. Jake nodded. Humanity had discovered the truth 50 years ago when they found a crashed alien probe on Mars. The probe's computer had information about the blockade, about the Galactic Council, about everything. At first, the world's leaders wanted to rage and scream at the sky. But then they did something smarter. They kept the secret and started to prepare. "The ship is ready," Jake said. He thought about the massive battleship hidden in Neptune's shadow. They had built it in pieces on Earth and the Moon, then assembled it in deep space where the aliens couldn't detect them. "My crew is ready too." Dr. Amy Foster stepped forward. She had spent 30 years studying the alien psychology from the probe's data. "Remember, Captain, they think we're primitive. They expect us to have rockets and basic nuclear power. They have no idea we've learned their technology and improved on it." Jake smiled. Humans were good at learning, especially when they were angry. And humanity had been very angry for 50 years. But they had channeled that anger into something useful. They had united like never before. Every country, every scientist, every engineer had worked together on one goal: to break free. Lisa Chen waited on the bridge of humanity's first true warship. She was the weapons officer, and she knew every gun, missile, and energy weapon on the ship better than she knew her own home. The USS Vengeance was 2 kilometers long, painted black to blend with space. It had armor thicker than any building on Earth and weapons that could crack a moon in half. But the best part wasn't the weapons. It was the shields and the computer systems. Humans had looked at alien technology and asked a simple question: why didn't they prepare for real war? The answer was simple. The aliens had been at peace so long they forgot how to fight properly. Their shields were basic. Their weapons were meant to disable, not destroy. Their ships were pretty but weak. Humans built the Vengeance to win a real fight. Every system had backups. Every weapon could work 3 different ways. The armor wasn't just thick. It was smart, able to move and adjust to protect damaged areas. The computer could predict enemy movements by watching them for just a few seconds. Paul Rodriguez, the chief engineer, checked the power systems one more time. The fusion antimatter reactor was his baby. He had designed it himself, taking alien ideas and making them better. The aliens used clean, efficient power. Paul had made something that was purposely intimidating. When the reactor powered up fully, it would create vibrations that other ships could feel. It was psychological warfare at its finest. Back on the monitoring station, a young Corvani officer named Tilvek noticed something strange on his screen. There was a tiny flicker in the readings from Neptune. It was probably nothing, just space dust or a malfunction. But Tilvek was good at his job. So he checked again. "Commander," he said, his voice shaking slightly, "I'm detecting an unusual energy reading from the human system." HFY floated over, not really concerned. The humans sometimes tested nuclear weapons in space, thinking they were being clever. "Show me," he said. The readings were strange. It was too much power for a nuclear test, but not natural like a solar flare. As they watched, the energy signature grew stronger. Whatever it was moving. And it was moving toward them. Jake Morrison put on his captain's uniform for the first time in actual operation. In the mirror, he saw not just himself, but all of humanity's hope and anger. They had been treated like animals in a zoo, too dangerous to let out. But the zookeepers had made a mistake. They had left the cage unlocked, thinking the animals were too stupid to notice. "All stations report ready, Captain," his first officer, Commander Kyle Brooks, reported. Jake walked onto the bridge of the Vengeance. His crew of 500 were the best humanity had to offer. They had trained in secret for 10 years, running simulation after simulation. They knew alien tactics, alien psychology, alien weaknesses. They were ready. "Take us out nice and slow," Jake ordered. "Let them get a good look." The Vengeance moved from behind Neptune like a shark emerging from deep water. Its black hull reflected no light, making it look like a hole in space shaped like death itself. The engines hummed with power that made space itself vibrate. On the monitoring station, alarms started screaming. HFY couldn't believe what his sensors were showing him. A ship that size shouldn't exist. The power readings were impossible. The weapons signatures made no sense. This wasn't the primitive rocket technology humans were supposed to have. "Send a message to the Council," HFY ordered, his voice cracking with fear. "Tell them the humans have left their cage." Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, looking at the tactical display. The alien station was scrambling, trying to understand what they were seeing. 3 patrol ships were already heading their way. Coming to investigate, they had no idea what they were flying toward. "Open a channel," Jake ordered. It was time to introduce humanity to the galaxy properly. Lisa Chen watched her weapons displays, her fingers ready. Every gun was loaded. Every missile was armed. The shields were at full power, but they wouldn't fire first. Humans had learned patience along with anger. They would give the aliens one chance to leave peacefully. "Channel open, Captain," the communications officer announced. Jake stood up, straightened his uniform, and looked directly at the camera. 300 years of imprisonment were about to end. Humanity was done being afraid. It was time for the galaxy to learn what fear really meant. The monitoring station received the transmission. HFY watched as a human face appeared on his screen. The human was smiling, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator that had just cornered its prey. "Galactic Council Monitoring Station," Jake said, his voice carrying across the void. "This is Captain Jake Morrison, of the United Earth ship Vengeance. Your blockade of our system ends today." The silence on the monitoring station lasted for exactly 3 seconds. Then everyone started talking at once. HFY raised all 4 of his arms to quiet his crew. His mind was racing. The humans knew about them. They had known long enough to build that monster of a ship. And now they were making demands. "Human vessel," HFY said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I am Commander HFY of the Galactic Council. You are in violation of the containment protocols. Power down your weapons and engines immediately." On the bridge of the Vengeance, Jake Morrison actually laughed. Lisa Chen couldn't help but grin from her weapons station. They had expected this. The aliens still thought they were in charge. They were about to learn differently. "Commander HFY," Jake replied calmly, "I don't think you understand the situation. We're not asking for permission. We're informing you of facts. You have 1 hour to withdraw from our space. After that, we will remove you ourselves." The Vengeance continued its slow approach. Paul Rodriguez had programmed the engines to create a specific vibration pattern. It was based on his study of alien psychology. Most species in the Council had evolved from prey animals. The engine sound was designed to trigger their deepest fears, the sound of a predator approaching. 3 patrol ships dropped out of hyperspace near the station. They were beautiful ships, all curves and flowing lines. They looked like pieces of art. The lead ship was commanded by Captain Zara Kim of the Althari Republic. She had never seen actual combat. None of them had. The Galactic Council had been at peace for over 2,000 years. Unknown human vessel, Captain Kim transmitted. This is the patrol ship Harmony. You will shut down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with force. Jake turned to his tactical officer, Sam Davis. What do you think, Lieutenant? Should we show them what human shields look like? Sam smiled and started typing commands. Activating defensive grid now, Captain. The shields that erupted around the Vengeance were unlike anything the aliens had seen. Instead of the smooth bubble shields the Council races used, the Vengeance projected angry red geometric patterns that constantly shifted and changed. The shields looked alive, predatory, hungry. Captain Kim ordered her weapons officer to fire. A warning shot. A blue beam of energy lanced out from the Harmony, meant to impact just ahead of the human ship. Instead, the beam hit the strange red shields. The shields didn't just absorb the energy, they analyzed it. Within nanoseconds, the shield frequency adjusted to make that exact weapon useless against them. Captain, Lisa Chen reported, their weapon is now completely ineffective against us. Should I return fire? Not yet, Jake said. Let's see what else they've got. The 3 patrol ships spread out, trying to surround the Vengeance. It was a standard Council tactic. Overwhelm with numbers and disable the target. But humans had studied their tactics for 50 years. They knew every move the aliens would make. They're moving to surround us, Sam Davis announced, sounding almost bored. Pattern Alpha 7, just like in the simulations. Jake nodded. Execute countermeasure Foxtrot. The Vengeance suddenly accelerated, but not forward. It went straight up relative to the patrol ship's position. The human ship moved with a speed and agility that shouldn't have been possible for something so large. The patrol ships tried to adjust, but they were built for grace, not war. The Vengeance positioned itself above all 3 ships, weapons trained on their engines. I have targeting solutions on all 3 vessels, Lisa reported. I can disable them without causing casualties. Meanwhile, more ships were arriving. The Council had never faced a threat like this, and they were panicking. 20 more vessels dropped out of hyperspace, forming a battle line between the Vengeance and the inner solar system. Admiral Chen Lu watched from the edge of the system aboard the USS Defiance. 3 more human battleships waited with him. The USS Liberty, USS Independence, and USS Retribution. They were hidden, running silent, waiting for Jake's signal. Look at them scramble, his weapons officer commented. They have no formation discipline at all. Chen Lu nodded. The Council ships were arranged in a pretty pattern, but it was useless for actual combat. They had too many blind spots, no overlapping fields of fire, and no reserve units. A first-year human military cadet would have failed tactics class with that formation. Back on the Vengeance, Jake opened a channel to all the Council ships. This is your final warning. We have no desire to hurt anyone, but we will defend ourselves. Leave now, or we will make you leave. The response came from the Council fleet commander, a Thraxian named Admiral Kor. Human vessel, you are outnumbered. 23-1. Surrender now and your crew will not be harmed. Jake muted the channel and turned to his crew. Well, they asked for a demonstration. All stations, execute Combat Plan Alpha. Remember, disable only, no casualties. What happened next would be studied by military historians for generations. The Vengeance didn't just fight, it danced. The ship's electronic warfare suite activated first, sending out virus programs that confused the enemy targeting systems. Half the Council ships started locking onto each other instead of the human vessel. Then the point defense systems came online. The Vengeance fired thousands of small projectiles, not at the enemy ships, but around them. The projectiles created a maze of kinetic hazards that forced the Council ships to move in predictable patterns. And Lisa Chen was ready for each move. The Vengeance's main guns spoke for the first time. Not the planet-cracking main cannon, but the smaller tactical weapons. Each shot was precisely calculated. One ship lost its engines, another had its weapons. disabled. A third found its navigation system completely fried. The beautiful council ships tried to return fire, but their weapons either hit the adaptive shields uselessly or were intercepted by point defense. When 3 ships tried to rush, the Vengeance together, the human ship did something unprecedented. It rammed through them, not to destroy but to push. The Vengeance's reinforced hull nudged the smaller ships aside like a whale swimming through a school of fish. In 12 minutes, it was over. 23 council ships floated helplessly in space, all disabled, none destroyed. Not a single life had been lost. The demonstration was perfect. Humanity could have killed them all but chose not to. Vexhai watched from his monitoring station in horror and awe. The humans had turned warfare into an art form. They had studied council tactics and found every weakness. But more terrifying than their skill was their restraint. A species capable of such violence choosing not to kill. That was truly frightening. Admiral Kor is requesting assistance, Tilvek reported. His ship has no power and life support is on backup systems. Jake Morrison stood on his bridge looking at the disabled fleet. Send engineering teams to assist with repairs. Give them everything they need to get life support back online. His crew looked surprised. They were going to help the enemy? We're not monsters, Jake explained. We're just not victims anymore. Commander Brooks, signal the rest of our fleet. It's time to introduce ourselves properly. The USS Defiance, Liberty, Independence and Retribution emerged from hiding. 4 more battleships, each as powerful as the Vengeance. The Council forces watched in stunned silence as the human fleet moved into formation. Admiral Chen Lu opened a channel to the monitoring station. Commander Vexhai, this is Admiral Chen Lu of the United Earth Defense Force. We have a message for your Galactic Council. Humanity is coming to the table whether you've set a place for us or not. On Earth, billions of people watched the live feed. After 3 centuries of secret imprisonment, humanity was finally free. Children who had been told they might someday see the stars now knew that day was coming. Scientists who had worked in secret could finally share their achievements, and the soldiers who had trained for this moment knew their sacrifice had been worth it. Kate Williams, Earth's newly appointed ambassador to the Galactic Council, prepared to board a shuttle to the Vengeance. She would travel with them to the Council's capital world. Her mission was simple: negotiate humanity's place in the galaxy. But unlike 300 years of imprisoned ancestors, she would negotiate from a position of strength. The galaxy had expected to meet primitive humans, with rockets and dreams. Instead, they met a species that had turned adversity into advantage, imprisonment into preparation, and anger into determination. The stars were no longer out of reach. Humanity was coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council on Centrum was filled with representatives from 47 species. The massive hall could hold thousands, with floating platforms for species that flew and water tanks for aquatic members. At the center, the Council's leadership sat in a circle, with Prime Coordinator Sekla's crystalline form glowing with agitation. The news from Sol System had arrived 3 days ago. Since then, the Council had been in emergency session. Some members called for immediate military action. Others wanted to negotiate. A few even suggested that humanity deserved an apology. The debate had raged without conclusion until the human ambassador arrived. Kate Williams walked into the chamber wearing a simple black suit. She carried no weapons, no guards, just a datapad and confidence. Behind her, through the massive windows, the USS Retribution floated in orbit. Its presence was not a threat, but a reminder. Ambassador Williams, Prime Coordinator Sekla's voice resonated through the chamber. Your species has committed acts of aggression against Council peacekeeping forces. How do you answer these charges? Kate smiled and activated her datapad. A hologram appeared showing the blockade around Earth. Prime Coordinator, for 300 years you imprisoned 4 billion humans without trial, without communication, without hope. We committed no crime except being ourselves. How do you answer those charges? The chamber erupted in discussion. Many representatives had not known about the blockade. It had been a decision made by the Council Security Committee in secret. Now the truth was exposed. Your species is violent, insisted Ambassador Threll of the Gorvani Empire. You wage war on each other constantly. You destroy your own planet. The blockade was for the protection of peaceful civilizations. Kate nodded. You're right. Humans are violent. We fight. We struggle. We compete. But do you know what happened when we learned about your blockade? Every war on Earth stopped, every nation united, every human worked toward one goal. You gave us something to fight against together, and we thank you for that. Back in Sol System, the Vengeance faced a new challenge. The Council had assembled its largest fleet ever, over 300 ships from 12 species. They surrounded Earth's solar system, demanding humanity's surrender. Admiral Jorge Martinez commanded the combined Council fleet from his flagship, a massive Zalathi dreadnought called the Eternal Peace. Jake Morrison looked at the tactical display. 300 ships against Earth's 5 battleships. On paper, it seemed impossible. But Jake knew something the Council didn't. They were about to receive a lesson in human warfare doctrine. Admiral Chen Lu is asking for permission to begin, Lisa Chen reported. Tell him he's clear to execute Operation David, Jake replied. The 5 human battleships spread out, each taking a different position around the solar system. They looked pitifully outnumbered. Admiral Martinez almost felt sorry for them. He opened a channel to the Vengeance. Captain Morrison, surely you see this as hopeless. We don't want bloodshed. Surrender now, and we can discuss terms. Jake's response was simple. Admiral Martinez, we're going to disable your entire fleet without killing a single person. You have 10 minutes to withdraw. Martinez couldn't believe the arrogance. He turned to his tactical staff, a mix of different species, all experts in their fields. Begin the engagement. Disable those ships. The Council fleet moved forward in their standard formation, a sphere designed to overwhelm with firepower from all directions. It had worked in every peacekeeping action for 2 millennia. They didn't realize they were flying into a trap. Paul Rodriguez, aboard the USS Independence, initiated the first phase. Activating wideband jamming. Let's see how they handle having no communications. Suddenly, every Council ship lost contact with every other ship. Their advanced quantum communicators, which they thought were unhackable, went dead. The humans had spent 50 years studying captured alien tech. They knew every frequency, every encryption, every weakness. The Council ships tried to maintain formation using visual signals, but then the human ships started their real attack, not with weapons, but with psychology. The Vengeance projected massive holograms, images of human battleships that looked exactly like the real ones. Suddenly, the Council fleet wasn't facing 5 ships but 50. Which ones are real? Shouted a Corvani captain, his ship firing at a hologram that dissolved when hit. The chaos was exactly what the humans wanted. Lisa Chen coordinated with the weapons officers on the other human ships. They fired in perfect synchronization, their shots passing through the gaps in the Council formation to hit precisely chosen targets. Engine pods exploded. Weapon arrays went dark. Shield generators overloaded. But the real genius of the human plan was simpler. The USS Liberty's captain, Maria Santos, executed her part perfectly. Her ship dove straight into the center of the Council formation and released something unprecedented. Millions of tiny drones, each no bigger than a baseball. The drones attached to Council ships and did nothing harmful. They just made noise, a horrible, discordant sound that changed frequency every second. To humans, it was annoying. To most Council species with their more sensitive hearing, it was unbearable. Crews couldn't think, couldn't coordinate, couldn't function. Admiral Martinez watched his perfect fleet fall apart in 20 minutes. Ships were crashing into each other trying to escape the noise. Others were firing at holograms. Some were simply drifting, their crews incapacitated by the sound. And through it all, the 5 human ships moved like predators, disabling any vessel that tried to reorganize the fleet. Make it stop, his communications officer pleaded, all 4 of his hands pressed against his audio organs. Martinez was about to order a retreat when something extraordinary happened. The noise stopped. The holograms disappeared. The jamming ended. Jake Morrison's face appeared on every screen in the fleet. That was 20 minutes, Jake said calmly. We could have continued. We could have destroyed every ship. Instead, we're offering you a chance to leave with dignity. Take it. Back on Centrum, Kate Williams was showing the Council a different kind of demonstration. She had brought videos from Earth, not of their weapons or ships, but of their culture. She showed them human hospitals where doctors saved lives, schools where children learned, artists creating beauty, musicians making songs. This is who we are, Kate said. Yes, we fight, but we also love, create, dream, and hope. We're not asking you to fear us. We're asking you to know us. Counselor Vrex, an ancient being from a race that had transcended physical form, spoke for the first time in decades. Your demonstration in Sol system, you could have killed them all. Yes, Kate answered simply. But you didn't. No. Why? Kate thought for a moment. Because killing is easy. Any species can destroy. We wanted to show you something harder, that we can win without killing. That we're not the monsters you thought we were. The debate that followed was unlike any in Council history. Some members were terrified of humanity's military prowess. Others were impressed by their restraint. Still others were ashamed that they had imprisoned an entire species based on fear. Finally, Prime Coordinator Sekla called for order. Ambassador Williams, what does humanity want? Kate stood straight, speaking clearly. We want what any species wants. The freedom to explore, to trade, to learn. We want a seat at this table, not because we can take it by force, but because we've earned it. We spent 300 years growing, learning, becoming better. Now we want to share that with the galaxy. And if we refuse? Asked Ambassador Threll. Kate looked directly at him. Then we'll build our own council. We'll explore the galaxy without you. We'll trade with species who aren't afraid of us. And when pirates attack your ships, when aggressive species threaten your borders, you'll wonder if things might have been different if you had chosen friendship over fear. In Sol system, the council fleet was limping away. Admiral Martinez had ordered a full retreat. As his damaged dreadnought entered hyperspace, he sent one message to Jake Morrison. This isn't over. Jake smiled as he read it. No, Admiral, it's just beginning. The 5 human battleships regrouped near Earth. They had won without killing. Anyone proved their point without becoming the monsters the galaxy feared. But Jake knew this was just the first step. The real challenge would be proving that humanity deserved trust, not just fear. Sam Davis looked at the tactical data from the battle. Captain, they'll be back with a bigger fleet. Probably, Jake agreed. But by then they'll have heard what our ambassador has to say, and they'll have to ask themselves a question. Do they want us as enemies or as allies? The crew of the Vengeance looked at Earth through the viewports. Their home looked small and fragile from here, but they knew better. That small blue world had produced a species that could face the entire galaxy and refuse to back down. 300 years of imprisonment had not broken humanity. It had forged them into something stronger. Dr. Amy Foster stood in the center of the Galactic Council chamber, surrounded by holographic displays. She had been invited to explain humanity's rapid technological advancement, and she intended to give them a lesson they would never forget. The entire council was present, along with military advisors and scientists from every member species. You want to know how we did it? Amy began, her voice carrying across the silent chamber. How a species you deemed primitive built battleships that can defeat your best fleets. The answer is simple. You gave us the perfect conditions to evolve. Activated the first display, showing Earth surrounded by the blockade. For 300 years you kept us in isolation. No trade, no cultural exchange, no technological sharing. Most species would have stagnated. But humans? We thrive under pressure. The display changed, showing the wars of Earth's history. You were right about one thing. We are violent. We've been fighting each other since we learned to walk upright. But when we discovered your blockade, something unprecedented happened. Every single human nation, tribe, and group united. 7 billion minds working on one problem. Ambassador, Threll interrupted, his 6 eyes focusing on Amy. Unity alone cannot explain your technological leap. Our scientists say your ships use principles we haven't even theorized. Amy smiled. That's because you've been at peace for 2,000 years. Your technology is designed for comfort, efficiency, and safety. Ours is designed for survival. Let me show you something. The hologram displayed the interior of the Vengeance. Commander Kyle Brooks was giving a tour to a group of Council military observers. They walked through the ship's corridors, which were notably different from Council vessels. Everything was functional, utilitarian, almost aggressively simple. Why? Are there 3 different life support systems? Asked Captain Zara Kim, who had faced the Vengeance in the first encounter. Kyle pointed to each system in turn. Primary system fails, secondary takes over. Secondary fails, tertiary activates. Each system uses different technology, different power sources, different principles. It's impossible to knock them all out with one attack. They moved to the weapons bay. Lisa Chen was explaining the railguns to a Thraxian weapons expert. The projectile is simple, just a chunk of metal, but we accelerate it to 20% of light speed. At that velocity, it doesn't need explosives. The kinetic energy alone can crack a moon. But how do you generate that much power? The Thraxian asked. Lisa pointed to the power conduits. We don't store it. We generate it on demand. Each weapon has its own reactor. If one fails, the others keep firing. Back in the council chamber, Amy continued her presentation. You see, you evolved past war. You solved conflicts with discussion, trade, and mutual benefit. These are admirable traits, but you also lost something. The ability to think in terms of conflict. Your ships have one shield generator because why would you need more? Your weapons have one mode because they've always worked. Your tactics haven't changed because they haven't needed to. She showed images of human military history. We never had that luxury. Every weapon we created led to a counter-weapon. Every tactic led to a counter-tactic. We've been in an arms race with ourselves for 10,000 years. When we found your technology, we didn't just copy it. We immediately thought of ways to defeat it. Counselor Vrex floated forward, its energy form pulsing with curiosity. Show us these innovations. Amy activated another display. Your shields are energy bubbles that disperse incoming fire. Elegant, efficient, but predictable. Our shields are layered, adaptive, and regenerative. Watch this. The display showed a test from Earth. A captured Council weapon fired at a human shield. The first shot was partially absorbed. The second shot was less effective. By the third shot, the shield had completely adapted, and the weapon was useless. The shield doesn't just block, Amy explained. It learns. Every attack makes it stronger. It's based on our computer virus technology, but applied to energy patterns. Your weapons literally teach our shields how to defeat them. On the Vengeance, Jake Morrison was having a different conversation with Admiral Martinez, who had come aboard under a flag of truce. They stood in the ship's war room, walls covered with tactical analyses of every Council species. This is disturbing, Martinez said, looking at a detailed breakdown of his own species' weaknesses. You've studied us like specimens. No, Jake corrected. We've studied you like potential threats. There's a difference. We know your psychology, your physiology, your capabilities. Not because we want to hurt you, but because we needed to know how to stop you from hurting us. Martinez examined a tactical display showing the recent battle. Your combat doctrine. It's unlike anything in our databases. Jake pulled up historical examples. It's called maneuver warfare. We developed it over centuries of conflict. The goal isn't to destroy the enemy, but to destroy their ability to fight. Break their coordination, their morale, their will. You can win a battle without firing a shot if you do it right. But why? Martinez asked. Why not just use overwhelming force? Because, Jake said, looking directly at the Admiral, the enemy you destroy today can't become the ally you need tomorrow. We learned that lesson the hard way, through thousands of years of wars that nobody really won. In the Council chamber, Amy was reaching the crucial point of her presentation. But here's what you really need to understand. Our advancement wasn't just about technology or tactics. It was about purpose. For the first time in human history, our entire species had a common goal. No more fighting over resources or ideology. No more wasting brilliant minds on provincial conflicts. She showed images of Earth's transformation. Cities that had been rivals now shared technology freely. Scientists who had worked for competing nations now collaborated openly. Military forces that had been enemies now trained together. We took every dollar, every yuan, every euro that would have gone to fighting each other and put it toward one goal: freedom. Do you have any idea what 7 billion motivated humans can accomplish when they work together? Prime Coordinator. Sekla's crystalline form darkened with thought. You're saying we created the very thing we feared? Yes, Amy said simply. You were so afraid of our violence that you gave us the perfect reason to weaponize it. But here's the thing. We could have come out shooting. We could have destroyed your monitoring station, your fleets, maybe even some of your worlds before you stopped us. But we didn't. Why? Sekla asked. Amy looked around the chamber at all the different species. Because we spent 300 years locked in with ourselves. We had to face our own demons, our own failures, our own potential. We learned something important. The strongest warrior is the one who chooses when not to fight. On the USS Liberty, Captain Maria Santos was training a group of young human officers. They were running combat simulations, but with a twist. They had to win without any casualties on either side. But Captain, one young lieutenant protested, it would be easier to just destroy them. Maria nodded. Of course it would. Destruction is always easier than precision. But we're not trying to be easy. We're trying to be better. Any fool with a big gun can kill. It takes skill to defeat an enemy and leave them alive to learn from it. Back in the council chamber, Amy was concluding her presentation. You want to know our secret? We turned your prison into a forge. We turned your fear of us into motivation to improve. We turned 300 years of isolation into the greatest research and development program in human history. She displayed one final image. Earth, surrounded not by blockade satellites, but by human ships. We're not asking for your approval anymore. We're not asking for permission. We're informing you that humanity is ready to join the galactic community. The question is whether you're ready for us. The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, it was Admiral Martinez who spoke up via transmission from the Vengeance. I've spent the last hour aboard their ship, he said. I've seen their weapons, their tactics, their preparations. They could conquer half the galaxy before we could stop them. But they haven't. They won't. Because they've evolved past conquest. They've become something we didn't expect. Warriors who choose peace. Kate Williams stood to make humanity's final statement. 300 years ago, you judged us as too violent for the galaxy. Today, we stand before you not to dispute that judgment, but to show you how we've transformed it. Yes, we're violent, but we've turned that violence into vigilance. We've turned our aggression into protection. We've turned our warrior nature into the shield the galaxy didn't know it needed. The revelation was complete. Humanity hadn't just broken free from their prison. They had used it to become something new. They were still warriors, still fighters, still dangerous. But they had learned the most important lesson of all. True strength wasn't in the ability to destroy, but in the choice to protect. 6 months had passed since humanity's dramatic entrance onto the galactic stage. The galaxy had changed in ways nobody could have predicted. Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Centrum Station, watching Earth's newest battleship, the USS Phoenix, glide past. Beside him stood Commander Vexhai, who had become an unlikely friend. I still remember the terror I felt when your ship first appeared, Vexhai admitted, his forearms clasped behind his back. Now I feel safer knowing you're out there. Jake smiled. The transformation had been remarkable. Human battleships now patrolled the major trade routes, protecting merchant vessels from pirates. In 6 months, piracy had dropped by 90%. Pirates who had operated for centuries with impunity were learning that human ships didn't give warnings twice. Contact on Sector 7, Lisa Chen announced from her new position as captain of the USS Sovereign. Her image appeared on Jake's personal communicator. Looks like the Ravager clan is trying to hit a medical supply convoy. Handle it, Captain Chen, Jake replied. Standard protocol. One warning, then disable. 3 minutes later, Lisa reported back. Ravager ships disabled and secured. Medical convoy continuing to their destination. The colony on Kepler 442b will get their supplies on time. Vexhai made a sound that Jake had learned was the Zelathi equivalent of amazement. 3 minutes. It used to take our patrol ships hours to handle pirates if they could handle them at all. The change wasn't just in security. On Earth, the Unity University had opened its doors to students from all council species. Humans were teaching their approach to problem-solving, engineering, and yes, tactical thinking. But they were also learning art from the Althari, philosophy from the Corvani, advanced mathematics from the crystalline sect. Dr. Amy Foster walked through the university campus with a group of mixed-species students. A young Thraxian was arguing with a human student about shield harmonics while a Gorvani took notes. This was what she had dreamed of. Not humans teaching warfare, but all species learning from each other. Professor Foster, the Thraxian student asked, why do humans always build weapons with multiple redundancies? It seems inefficient. Amy smiled. Because we learned that in a real crisis, everything that can fail will fail. We don't build for perfect conditions. We build for the worst day imaginable, and then we make it worse and build for that. In the council chambers, a new vote was being taken. Prime Coordinator Sekla presented the motion. The proposal before us is to establish the Galactic Defense Force with humanity as the primary military advisors and trainers. All in favor? One by one, the representatives voted. Even Ambassador Threll, who had been the most vocal opponent of humanity, raised his appendage in agreement. The vote was unanimous. Kate Williams accepted the position on behalf of Earth. We're honored by your trust. But let me be clear. We're not going to turn the galaxy into a military state. We're going to teach you to protect yourselves while hoping you never need to use what you learn. The real test came 3 months later. A species from beyond council space, the Zerathi, invaded the outer colonies. They were aggressive, expansionist, and had technology on par with the council. In the old days, it would have taken months of debate before any action was taken. Colonies would have fallen while the council discussed. Not anymore. Admiral Chen Lu coordinated the response from the USS Defiance. All human vessels form up on these coordinates. Council fleet maintain defensive positions around civilian populations. The 5 human battleships jumped into the invaded system together. The Zerathi fleet, 30 strong, was bombarding a colony world. They had never encountered humans before. Unknown vessels, the Zerathi commander broadcast. You will withdraw or be destroyed. Chen Lu's response was calm. Zerathi fleet, you are engaged in an act of war against a peaceful population. You have one opportunity to withdraw. This is your only warning. The Zerathi responded by firing everything they had at the human ships. It was a mistake. The adaptive shields absorbed the first barrage, analyzed it, and became immune. The human ships didn't even slow down. What followed was a textbook demonstration of human combat doctrine. The battleships separated, each taking a section of the enemy fleet. They disabled weapons first, then engines, then life support backups. In 18 minutes, the entire Zerathi fleet was helpless, but then came the part that nobody expected. Instead of destroying or imprisoning the Zerathi, Chen Lu opened communications. Your fleet is disabled but intact. Your crews are alive. We're going to tow you to the edge of the system where you can make repairs. Go home and tell your leaders that this region is protected. The Zerathi commander was stunned. You're letting us go? We're giving you a choice, Chen Lu replied. Leave and live in peace, or return and face the consequences. But know this. We've analyzed your technology, adapted to your weapons, and learned your tactics. If you come back, it will take us 5 minutes instead of 18. The Zerathi left and never returned. Word spread through unexplored space about the new protectors of the Council worlds. Some species approached in peace, wanting to trade. Others stayed away, deciding expansion wasn't worth facing human battleships. On the USS Vengeance, Jake Morrison was training a mixed crew. Humans worked alongside Zalathi, Corvani, and even a few Thraxians. It was an experiment in integration, and it was working better than anyone had hoped. "Sir?" Tilvek, the young Corvani who had first detected the Vengeance, reported from his station. "I'm picking up a distress signal. Civilian transport under attack by unknown aggressors." "Helm set course," Jake ordered. "Maximum speed. Weapons. Prepare for rapid engagement. Remember, people, we protect those who can't protect themselves. Ameo." Vengeance arrived to find a small passenger ship being pursued by raiders. The raiders saw the human battleship and immediately tried to flee. They didn't get far. The Vengeance's precision weapons disabled their engines in seconds. As security teams boarded the raider ships, Jake received a message from the passenger vessel. On screen appeared a Zalathi family, parents, and 2 children. The father spoke, with emotion thick in his voice. "Thank you, humans. We thought we were dead." "Just doing our job," Jake replied. "Safe travels." After the family signed off, Vexhai turned to Jake. "You know what the most remarkable thing is? A year ago, that family would have been terrified to see a human ship. Now they feel safe. 1 year after first contact, the galaxy had adapted to humanity's presence. The Council still governed, still debated, still pursued peace. But now, they had teeth. Pirates thought twice before attacking. Aggressive species reconsidered expansion. And billions of beings slept better knowing that humanity's battleships patrolled the void. At the first anniversary celebration on Centrum, representatives from all species gathered. Admiral Martinez, now a friend and colleague to the human fleet, gave the keynote speech. "We imprisoned humanity because we feared their violence," he said. "It was the greatest mistake and the greatest accident in Council history. A mistake because we judged them without knowing them. An accident because our imprisonment forged them into exactly what the galaxy needed." Kate Williams took the podium next. "Humans are still violent. We still have that fire, that aggression, that warrior spirit, but we've learned to aim it. We've learned to control it. And we've chosen to use it to protect rather than conquer." She paused, looking at the mixed crowd of humans and aliens. 300 years ago, you built a cage around Earth. Today, we thank you for it. Because without that cage, we might have destroyed ourselves. Instead, we became something better. We became the guardians the galaxy didn't know it needed. The crowd erupted in applause, a strange sound with so many different species expressing approval in their own ways. But the sentiment was universal. The galaxy had learned to stop fearing humanity's battleships and started appreciating them. Earth, children of all species played together in the parks of New Geneva, the city built specifically for interspecies interaction. Human children taught Corvani younglings how to play soccer. Zalathi adolescents showed human teenagers their gravity-defying dance. It wasn't perfect. There were still misunderstandings, still conflicts. But it was progress. Paul Rodriguez stood in his engineering lab with students from 12 different species. They were working on the next generation of shields, combining human adaptability with Council efficiency. "Remember," he told them, "we're not building weapons of war, we're building tools of peace. Sometimes those look the same, but the intention matters." As the anniversary celebration continued, Jake Morrison found himself back on the Vengeance's bridge. His crew, now half human, half other species, worked in perfect harmony. They had proven that cooperation was possible, that former enemies could become allies, that fear could transform into respect. "Captain," Sam Davis reported, "we're receiving multiple distress calls. Pirates, raiders, and 2 natural disasters requiring evacuation assistance." Jake stood, straightening his uniform that now bore both Earth and Council insignia. "Then let's get to work. Helm, plot courses to all emergency sites. Notify the fleet to spread out and handle what they can. This is what we're here for. Sio." The Vengeance jumped to hyperspace, ready to help those in need. Jake reflected on the journey. Humanity had started as prisoners, B key,